Like it or hate it, the VG70 variable is undeniably fun.
Three,
Yep.
2,
You can-
1.
Go! Oh! Aside from using it to form the galaxy's first Helldiver Olympics, there's plenty that this beast of a primary can do, but using it to its fullest potential takes some effort. My name is Commissar Kai, and today I'll be showing you the ins and outs of Democracy's elephant gun. Let's start off with the stats to understand what makes it one of the more difficult primaries to get the most out of. The variable comes with 49 rounds per magazine, tube, I'm going with magazine, and does 85 damage per round. This is exactly the same round that the Peacemaker fires down to the velocity and drag factors. Since it fires the equivalent of a pistol cartridge, this means that its range and velocity are, well, crap. It has an AP of 2 and comes with 8 total magazines by default. I know some Helldivers might dismiss this weapon outright just because it is a light pin primary, and those people are what we call bad at aiming. I'll get more into this later, but of all the things that make this weapon a challenge to use, it being only light pin is pretty far down on the list. There are two main challenges to getting this confounding variable to yield significant results. That's nerd speak for get good. The first is using all of its available fire modes effectively. It comes with 3 fire modes and 3 different fire rates. You have a full auto mode that can be set to 3 different rates of fire. Aside from the standard gun mode, you also have access to volley fire. This basically turns the variable into a shotgun, enabling it to fire 7 bullets at once. The rate of fire of this mode is also affected by the rate of fire option that you have selected, meaning you can fire more quickly when using higher rates of fire. Finally, you have elephant gun mode for when an impaler breaks into the wrong goddamn rec room.
Broke into the wrong goddamn rec room, didn't you, you bastard?
This fires all remaining ammunition in the weapon and will send you flying, break your arm, or both when you let loose, unless you're laying down prone. Managing all these different fire modes on the fly is hard, but one change to your keybinds makes it significantly easier. Go to your keybinds, flip over to combat keybinds, and scroll down till you see open weapon wheel. Change this from the default to whatever you like, but the important part is swapping it from a long press to just press. This makes using weapons like the halt or the variable much easier to use. The second challenge for getting the most out of the variable is its absolutely abysmal ergonomics, which is comparable to the Eruptor. And since it has no attachments other than scopes, the only way to really improve its handling is taking the peak physique armor passive. So if you plan on fighting the squids or the bugs with it, make sure you take this armor passive or you'll be wishing you could reach for a can of Raid instead. Raid Shadow Legends. When I'm chilling in my cryopod or waiting for a super bus, Raid is there to help liberate me from my boredom. It reminded me of my days as a wee cadet playing through classics like Fire Emblem and Final Fantasy with its turn-based pseudo rock-paper-scissors gameplay pattern. Because I am free of thought, I like using Raid's auto-battler function. It lets you farm for new gear or heroes while cooking, cleaning, or waiting for that one teammate to open the dang bunker. Just set the game to auto and it will finish up whatever level you were on, or you'll die in the attempt. I also thoroughly enjoyed looking through all the factions and their champions because like most Helldivers, I prefer pictures to reading too many words. Speaking of champions, Raid hands out a ton of them. You can unlock the perfect starter team by downloading Raid through the link in my description or by scanning the QR code on screen. You'll want to start with Kale in the tutorial, and then you'll immediately pick up epic champion Tallia and her starter pack to begin your journey, plus another epic champion, Drake, after hitting level 15. You can also use any of these 5 promo codes for an instant legendary hero, but you only get one. I chose Demon Slayer for Tholen Foulbeard. He hits like an orbital napalm barrage on every attack. Additionally, you can grab Lemon Squeezy. Leminisi the Gold-wing by logging in for 7 days between now and August 20th. She's kinda like a support diver, removing enemy buffs and preventing them from gaining new ones. She also breaks through shields and ignores defenses with some of her abilities, so I guess she likes the de-escalator and arc grenades. Okay, now that I'm a professional YouTuber and you know the basics of what this weapon does, let's go over the pros and the cons to see if it's actually worth putting the effort in to learn. We'll treat this like eating a bowl of Lucky Charms. Get the bad out of the way so you can enjoy the good stuff. Now, personally, I don't think a weapon having light pin is a con, but since I know a lot of divers do, let me take this opportunity to try and convince you that it's not as big of a deal as you think. Light pin weapons, including the variable, usually trade penetration value for extra ammo, better accuracy, more damage, and better handling. The variable has atrocious handling, but it offsets that with significantly more damage compared to any other primary in the game. The total mode, which for clarification does fire 49 individual bullets instead of a single projectile, hits hits for a total of 4,165 damage. For reference, that is 6.7 explosive crossbow shots. Now, of course, that doesn't mean it has the same level of practical power as my favorite punching bag, but it is worth pointing out to demonstrate how unique this weapon is. This is enough damage to one-shot an impaler from medium range if you hit him in the sweet spot, which I don't think any other primary can do. It supposedly can also one-tap a harvester if you hit them in the eye with it, but after extensive testing, I was not able to replicate this. Maybe I just suck, but I think this isn't overly practical to do in a real game. If your experience is different, let me know. The downside of light pin is the aiming requirement. I took a jab at this earlier, but I want y'all to know that this really does boil down to preference. If you are okay with aiming for weak spots, and you can do so in the heat of battle, then it's not much of a downside at all. But if you find that too challenging or not as fun, then that is why Liberty made medium pin weapons. To put it in perspective, the only enemies that you cannot kill with light pin are tanks, towers, and factory striders. Everything else can be killed with light pin weapons. Things like chargers, hulks, harvesters, and bile titans are admittedly more difficult for pulling this off, but when you can smack them with 2,700 damage, light pin versus light armor means you're only doing 65% of your normal damage, it becomes a lot easier to finish off one of these big beasties with your blunderbuss of freedom. The volley mode is also worth a mention here, since each pull of the trigger is doing 595 damage. It's basically a more realistic shotgun with 7 rounds before needing to reload. But both the volley fire and total modes share a weakness. The ammo economy is not great. 8 mags is a decent amount for any primary, but when you're routinely throwing your entire magazine at a problem all at once, you will feel the squeeze on your spare ammo. Fire in the total mode takes some getting used to, since most of the time you'll want to go prone before firing to avoid being thrown off a cliff by the recoil. This takes practice and good situational awareness, since laying down at the wrong time can mean getting eaten. It's just another thing you have to consider when using this weapon. Each of the fire modes is powerful in its own right, but flipping between them throughout a match can be taxing until you get used to it. Don't be surprised if you end up absolutely obliterating a hunter because you forgot to switch off total mode. For the last of the cons, you have to deal with the ergonomics. You can do this easily with peak physique, but it's not your only option. You can instead handle it using a movement tech that I figured out a long time ago with the Eruptor. Instead of waiting 3 to 5 business days for your variable to move across the screen, just stop holding down your aim key and move your camera towards whatever you want to shoot. Bring the gun up, fire off your shots, and repeat as often as needed. This isn't a perfect fix, but it helps a lot if you need to quickly change between targets. Not gonna lie though, the handling is painful. For the pros, I'll keep this brief since we've already covered a lot. The main upside to this weapon is one that many helldivers overlook. It's fun to use. Seriously, too many people get caught up in chasing whatever the best primary support weapon, stratagem, sidearm, or emotional support is, and forget to play with stuff just because it is fun. For example, you can't compete with your friends to see who can fling themselves the furthest into a lake with a purifier. You won't get as many clutch moments of nailing a flesh mob just before they run you over. And you won't get the satisfaction of gibbing hunters with volley fire. This gun is just fun to use, plain and simple. But I wouldn't cheap out on you and have that be the only reason. This gun is legitimately fantastic at being an answer for both large enemies, like flesh mobs and alpha commanders, and for dealing with hordes. For flesh mobs, it can kill them in 2 total volleys, but I would advise against this since it will use up a lot of your ammunition. Instead, find other sources of damage to soften up the meatball before finishing it off with a bang. For alphas, you can just go prone and pop them like a fascist balloon. This is important because sometimes they'll flee in terror from a fight to try and enlist some of their braver companions to eat you. Being able to turn them into Nutella with one shot anywhere on their main body helps reduce the amount of bugs you'll need to take on. Volley fire is also great at popping devastators since the spread of the bullets makes it a little bit easier to hit them in the face, legs, or belly as long as they're not right up in your business. While full auto mode can clear out hordes of little bots on megacity streets since they typically spawn a lot of them. The versatility of the variable is a real strength that you can feel when you use it. If you have a support weapon that you like using as your main method of disposing of the enemies of democracy, then the variable is great at pairing with it since it can do so much. Speaking of pairing, let's end the video with some loadouts. I'll give you one for each faction. On bugs, the variable can handle a lot of their bigger threats, but there's a few that it will struggle with, namely bile spears, unless you play on level 6 or lower since their head is only medium armored on higher difficulties, chargers, and bile titans. So we're going to take the grenade launcher for big groups so we can save our ammo on our variable, close bug holes, and deal with side objectives. The Lift 182, all the small things your death I bring. Warp Pack to give us unprecedented mobility and a bit of added killing power. And Randy plus the 500 kg to help out with armored threats. Finally, for our sidearm, we'll take the Talon to help with Hive Guard and to just be a reliable backup. and thermite grenades to slap on the bigger targets. Our variable and grenade launcher give us all the mobbing power we need so we can safely invest in gear that handles heavies. Armor choice isn't really important, but peak physique and siege ready just seem like the biggest winners. For this one, you'll need the control group, borderline justice, and democratic detonation war bonds. For bots, we're going to take a classic approach with the recoilless rifle for handling heavy targets and to help clear bases, Randy and Andy for general purpose scrap disposal, and the Eagle strafe and run because it is such a good general purpose stratagem. You can beat level 10 bot missions with just these stratagems and a sidearm, so the variable is a nice touch to fill any gaps between our stratagem call-ins. For your sidearm, take either the Senator or the Talon in case Devastators get too close, and in your grenade slot bring gas grenades for a bit of added crowd control. Finally, take an armor set with explosive resistance to make sure you don't drain too much of Super Earth's reinforcement budget. To use this kit, you'll need control group, obviously this is about the variable after all, borderline justice or steeled veterans, and chemical agents. The sidearm isn't really important, but the gas grenades help out a lot. For squids, we'll be taking Blink 182 again for mobility, since mobility is king against this faction. The heavy machine gun to augment our variable. This combo is really strong against pretty much anything since they share a lot of synergies. The variable can handle close-in targets since its volley fire 2-taps overseers to the chest, and its full auto mode can deal with voteless hordes, while your HMG can handle longer ranged engagements, flying overseers, and heavier targets like stingrays and harvesters. Round out your stratagems with Terry since he is an excellent distraction against the squids, only really being vulnerable to harvesters, and the orbital Gatling barrage for a bit of extra low cooldown firepower. For your sidearm, bring the grenade pistol to close spawners, and in your grenade slot take G10 incendiaries, not the impact version. With a recent buff, these now burn for 20 freaking seconds, which is kind of absurd, but I'll take it, making them incredible at shutting out voteless hordes and closing down lanes of attack. For armor, you'll really want peak physique here, since hitting flying overseers without it is difficult to say the least. Meaning for this setup, you'll need control group, duh, steeled veterans, democratic detonation, and Viper commandos. I think there's still a lot to be discovered with this weapon, so if you find any cool tricks or creative ways to use it, share it with the community. Thanks to Raid Shadow Legends for supporting this video. Remember to check out my link in the description or scan the QR code on screen if you're interested in trying it out on your next ride down from orbit. But until next time, this is Commissar Kai, signing out. Okay, drop the, go away!
Maybe this is an actual minigame we can do. Have just free-for-alls of people trying to telefrag each other.
Yeah, the telefrag wars.
Oh, I dropped it, but it stayed up here.
Come here, Chunky.
Oh.